Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Tom Pico, and I'm the president and CEO for the Penobscot Bay Regional Chamber of Commerce. So before we dive into today's topic, I have a couple of quick items to share from the Chamber. First of all, as we do with every event, we want to thank our premium members who make an additional investment beyond their dues with the Chamber for additional marketing opportunities. Our premium members are LCI, Machias Savings Bank, Peabody, Ballou and Associates, and we appreciate their support of the Chamber. I do want to remind you that we are continuing to use our 2020 Jewel of the Maine Coast Guide. Due to COVID, we had a lot of copies left, but we've published an addendum, a companion piece to go along with it. So this is our tourism fulfillment piece for this year, which is the 2020 Jewel and the 2021 addendum together with a sticker on the front to draw attention to that. So please feel free to come and pick those up from us. Reach out if you need some copies, and those are being distributed far and wide now, 2021. So I also want to have you mark your calendar for the premiere of our online awards event, which is next Wednesday, March 31st at 7 p.m. on our Chamber's YouTube channel. It's our virtual version of our annual gala, and we will be presenting our Community Person of the Year award that night, as well as other awards to a variety of businesses and organizations and individuals in our community. So we'll look forward to having you tune in next Wednesday, March 31st at 7 for the premiere of that broadcast. So our Tourism Tuesday series is sponsored by First National Bank, and we're pleased to have Nikki Janzura with us from First National Bank. So Nikki, would you like to share a brief welcome from the bank?
Thanks, Tom. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here this morning. The sun is shining. It is our pleasure to sponsor this series of Tourism Tuesdays. And Tom, thank you very much, and Amy, both for the work you're doing at the Chamber and for bringing programs like this to all of us. Thank you for the opportunity to sponsor, and we're thrilled to do it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nikki. We appreciate your support to help us bring this to everybody. So let's move on to our topic. We are recording today's session, and we'll share it later on our YouTube channel so that those who were not able to be here can get the information. If you have questions, please just shoot me a note in the chat or post your question either way, and I'll manage that after the presentation is over so that we move through those quickly and get to as many questions as we can. Today's presenters are Walter Briggs and Dave Page, both of CD&M Communications in Portland. CD&M Communications is the contracted grant manager for the Maine's MidCoast and Islands tourism region. And you're about to learn a whole lot more about how that all works and how it relates to the Maine Office of Tourism and resources that are available for your business through the Maine's MidCoast and Islands. So Walter and Dave, I'll turn it over to you. Thanks for being with us this morning.
All right. Well, thank you for having us. And I think Dave is going to share his screen. As Tom introduced, we are the Maine's Midcoast and Islands tourism region. And we can go to the first slide, I think. I'm a big fan of starting off with the big existential questions. Why do we exist? It's a good thing to think about while we're going through the work that we do, because it is an important part of our mission. And it originated some time long ago in a galaxy far away when some legislators and Maine Office of Tourism people realized that there was a hole in the marketing machine for Maine's tourism business. And that hole was between the state organization that works hard to bring people to the state of Maine and the individuals like you who rely on tourism for your livelihood. And so this system was created of 8 regions in the state of Maine, and you're looking at a map that shows the MidCoast region, which extends from Brunswick at the southern end to Belfast, Searsport at the northern end, and inland to Union, Freeport area up in that northwest. So we are funded by. Hang on just a second. The screen share made my notes go away. So I just want to make sure I cover all the points. Yeah, so we're funded by the Maine Office of Tourism. Generally, it's a percentage of their funding that is set aside as grant opportunities for the 8 regions. And we each are tasked with applying for the grant money, and that consists of working with the board of directors to come up with a marketing program that is designed specifically to bring people to the MidCoast region as opposed to bring them to Maine in particular. And going back to that why we exist piece, that's where we fit in this system is connecting the larger advertising and marketing that goes on to bring people to Maine with sort of uniting marketing efforts for the MidCoast region, where prior to that you would have Boothbay Harbor fighting with Damariscotta, fighting with Belfast. Everybody's kind of trying to draw their own people in. And in this way, we are able to pool our resources and bring more people to the MidCoast, which is, I think, the best region of Maine. It's where I've lived for 35 years. Does anybody here disagree with that? Like, MidCoast is the best. And yeah, so each year in this time of year, actually in the spring, we look at the marketing that Maine Office of Tourism is doing and work with the board to come up with something that fits with that to bring people to the MidCoast. We target specific geographies and geographic regions and demographics that we think we can draw to MidCoast. Our annual budgets have run this is my 15th year of working with this organization. And in the time I've been here, the annual budgets have been from a low of like $90,000, $80,000 or $90,000 a long time ago to $160,000, which would be just pre-COVID. And right now we're in the 130-ish, 150-ish range. The budget, as I said, it's a grant opportunity. So we have to apply. We have to show the Maine Office of Tourism that we have a sound plan to spend their money, that it respects the work that they are doing, and that it connects them with you. Yeah, and so also next to the map, you see a list of the chambers, basically. So these are the chambers, the charter of our particular organization, which is legally the MidCoast Maine Council of Chambers, which was for a long time referred to as MC3. We have in the last few years rebranded the organization to something more appealing to potential visitors, and that might be a good time to move to the next slide. But our board, the board that decides what is going to happen here, is comprised of the directors of those chambers that you saw a list of before. So here's the beginning of the rebranding was, looking at the iconic lighthouse image. Yes, so it's lighthouses, lobsters, and moose that bring people to Maine. And so that's what we led with. In this past year, we've adopted this tagline or marketing theme, putting us in the middle of amazing. And the thinking behind that was that we want people to think of us as amazing, because we are. And we are also a potential destination for people who are not only going to visit the MidCoast. So we do a lot of business with visitors who are on their way up to Acadia or visiting Portland area and making day trips to this area. Dave?
Yes. Hi, I'm Dave Page. I work with Walter. Just to kind of round out that conversation, prior to incorporating the middle of amazing, which we just launched in the past few months, there really was no tagline. There was no single theme to build around. And we saw an opportunity there to sort of tie all of our efforts together with that theme. We had some interesting feedback along the way. One of our board members had some concern about it sounding almost like the middle of nowhere, which we, during the time of COVID, kind of capitalized as a good thing. The middle of nowhere isn't necessarily bad. So anyway, we have launched this new theme, and at the same time, the logo was updated. It used to look a bit different. So we kind of modernized and updated the logo at the same time. I first wanted to walk you through our marketing plan. Walter already touched on it. During the spring each year, we develop a marketing plan to determine how we're going to spend the state's money. And every year we create sort of a collection of buckets. Those buckets of money. This year, during 2020-2021 marketing year, we run from summer to summer, the budget. So it's 2020 to 21 is, we have 11 buckets of money this year that we can draw from to tackle various efforts. This is just a quick snapshot of the marketing plan that we really just develop internally. It goes to the state and it goes to the board members to see what we are proposing to do. So this is just kind of a snapshot of how that looks. Here's the budget itself. I simplified it so that it'd be a little easier to see on screen. Usually underneath each of these line items, there would be a little more detail and maybe broken up into different projects. But just to give you a quick idea of how the budget works, how much money we have and how we spend it, that's what I've done here. This year, the money was reduced because of COVID. We were down to $123,000 to spend from last summer, or from actually, last year got a little bit extended, so from September to July. Some of the highlights that I'll touch on here are administration. So that's really just Walter and me and the agency. We work for an agency in Portland, and we use that money to manage the grant, to do some of the media research, to do some of the social media work. So it's just kind of one big bucket of money that kind of covers our time and effort internally. We work with the MOT, Maine Office of Tourism, on trade shows. So there's a small amount of money there that they use to help, excuse me, to help promote us at the trade shows that they attend. We have money set aside to develop more photography and video assets, which we share on our website, across our social media platforms, and our newsletters, and elsewhere. In a moment, we'll look briefly at the new guidebook, but the bucket of money number 4 there is money we use each year to update, distribute, print, store, mail our guidebook. And that's one of our most important pieces. It highlights the region, a few businesses get mentioned, various itineraries might be included. And in the back of that book, there is a map of the MidCoast that highlights all the different lighthouses. That's a big draw for people. So the map is one of the most requested items that we have to share. Number 5 is about regional partnerships. The state really likes it when different regions work together. Last year, the previous grant cycle, MidCoast worked with the Portland region and the Mountains and Lakes region, which covers areas like Rangeley and Sunday River and some of those types of spots. And we worked together on a video series that I'm going to share a little bit more here in a minute. This current year, we're working with those same two regions to try to develop some interregional itineraries that we can share with potential travelers, encouraging them to, if they're visiting Portland, come check out MidCoast, or if they're skiing at Sunday River, maybe come down to Brunswick or whatever. So we're trying to develop some itineraries that we can share across each of our own web platforms and drive traffic between each other to promote all three regions. Email marketing is a monthly newsletter that we send out, and I'll talk more about that later. We set aside money every year to continue updates to our website. We've just redesigned and relaunched one of our two websites, so I'll go into that in a moment too. And then we have a little bit of money for print advertising and for some online advertising. And then the last bucket of money this year is $3,000 that the state has given us to do community outreach, which includes events like today, where we talk to tourism partners in the region, to board members, to others who might be interested in our efforts, and try to share our resources with folks like you. So I mentioned the guidebook. This year, we just redesigned it. This is mailed out to people who request it through our website. It's also distributed at the visitor centers in Kittery and in Freeport. Or Yarmouth, excuse me, not Freeport, Yarmouth. We print as many as 30,000 a year. It's not unusual for all of those to be requested during the course of the year. During the time of COVID, we have reduced the print run of this redesign. We're doing a smaller run to start, and then as we see how the world changes, we may do a second run later in the year with some updates depending on how COVID impacts the near future. We also partner with an organization in the Mid-Atlantic region that distributes these guidebooks through their visitor centers throughout the Mid-Atlantic and up into sort of all the way up into southern New England. Anything to add on that, Walter?
I think you got it.
The guidebook really, we can't cover everything. It's about 20 pages. We can't mention every business, every restaurant, every hotel, but we do give inspiration to potential travelers about things they might consider doing. So we highlight some hiking trails, some beaches, some breweries, some restaurants, and things of that nature. Every year we try to swap some of those out. More information, of course, is available on the website, but it's mostly just to get people excited about coming. I mentioned websites. We have two websites that we operate. The first one here is travelmidcoast.com. This is what we refer to as our microsite. The other site is actually a platform that the state has developed that each region can go in and have a portion of. So it's kind of a Maine Office of Tourism website that is divided up among the regions, and we can control a good deal of the content on that website, but not everything. So in response to that, we created a microsite, travelmidcoast.com, which we have just redesigned. And this one is, we primarily use this to share content that might be inspiring to travelers. We post video, we post influencer stories. We have everything on here from fat biking in the winter along the coast to visiting breweries across the region. It's kind of our editorial storytelling site. And we don't do a whole lot on here about, telling people how to get here or where to stay. It's more experiences that they can have. So we work with influencers and writers and photographers to develop content, post it on this website, and then push it out through our social media platforms and our email newsletter and elsewhere. You'll see in a moment, I'm going to show you a video, but as you can probably tell on the homepage, we have a collection of videos that are very inspirational and exciting, and we try to update those seasonally and otherwise. And that's one of the things we can do on our microsite that we can't do very easily on the state website that they provide to us. So that's a great place for us to highlight video. here are a couple of the other internal pages on that site, and you can kind of get a sense, hopefully, from these little snapshots of the types of content that we share. Everything from food, you can see the lobster, we have oyster and wine pairing experiences that we can promote, as well as just, there's a great story on the website about how MidCoast is more than a stopover on your way to Acadia. There's so much to do, so we highlight some of that kind of stuff. The other website that I mentioned is the one that the state of Maine has built. It's a platform that each region can have a piece of. This one is a little more trip planning content. It's a place where potential travelers can go and figure out, like, how do they get here? Where can they stay? What are some of the businesses, like all of you can go access this site, and anyone who's interested, by the way, Tom, I think you could probably put them in touch with us, or actually there's a handout that that Tom will be distributing that has my contact info on it. So this is a website that not only we can use, but tourism partners in the region can use, restaurants and hotels and kayak outfitters, whatever, can go on here and add some of their own content. They can put up information about their hours, about their location, all that kind of events that they may be holding. So this website serves more of a sort of functional it's less about inspiration and more about the nuts and bolts of coming to the MidCoast. We have designed our microsite to coordinate with this one. So the two sites kind of work together. You can kind of bounce back and forth between them depending on which content you're looking for.
Can I just add there that on the mainsmidcoast.com, when you register on that site, you're actually registering on the Visit Maine site. So your content, your address, phone, hours, packages, travel information is being made available to not only people who come to mainsmidcoast.com, but to people who are visiting the Visit Maine site.
Yeah, thank you.
Not just thousands of people, but millions of people.
I mentioned a few moments ago a couple things. One, that we push video content whenever we can. And I also talked a little bit about the partnership we have done with other regions. In the previous grant year, from 2019 to 2020, MidCoast, Portland, and Lakes and Mountains partnered together and worked with a film production company on a very large project where we pooled all of our money to kind of get bigger bang for our buck. We hired an organization called GLP Films. They came in and throughout each of the three regions, researched, met with, and developed stories on businesses in those regions and why they're in Maine and why it's a great place to be and so forth. So I wanted to show one of those videos. The partner, the production company that we worked with also had their own set of influencers, their own social media, and their own paid media opportunities. So they, not only did we push these videos out, but they were able to push them out to their audiences as well, which gave us huge reach, combining all of our different platforms to get these stories out kind of into the world. I'm gonna play one of the videos. My experience with Zoom videos is a little bit hit or miss. Sometimes the sound is a little behind the picture, sometimes the sound's a little funky, but we'll give it a shot. This is one of the 3 stories that they created for the MidCoast. And I'll just play it and hopefully it works.
We think it's odd when people leave a job to pursue happiness. We feel a little odd that we took that risk. We're really, really happy we did. So odd's sort of the normal here. So we're specifically wanting to see what we can do in Maine with a brewery with ingredients that we grow. We don't filter our beers at all, actually. The yeast and the things in them, we add a lot of flavor. John and I have our own areas that we focus in on. We kind of realized a while ago no one would really work as hard for each other as we would for each other.
It can be hard work, but it seems to be work that fits my personality. You have to be a little bit, anal retentive, somewhat organized and be able to be kind of regimented. So once you start that clock of your brew day, there's a sequence that has to happen, and it has to happen timely.
laptops wanting to do work stuff. I'm like, no, you don't come here for work. This isn't a place for work. You come here to relax with people. So you can just enjoy yourself. I think the MidCoast is really unique because it's an exciting place. It's very invigorating to be around people who are doing things that they love. It's also just extremely beautiful. Like just the beauty of the landscape, it calls me more than any other place that I visit. There's nothing quite like that. And when you grow up here, you're spoiled. You don't know that until you leave. And then you realize this is really unique. This is really special. That's all we're really looking for is a good life and making something that we're really happy with and having people come and enjoy that.
So did that work for everyone? Could you all hear it in the?
I'd say it was hit or miss, like you said, but
yeah,
close enough.
You get an idea of the types of. There were 3 of those that were specific to MidCoast that GLP. Whoops. that GLP created for us. They did similar videos for the other 2 regions. Whoops. Get back to.
Yeah, and then I'd just add that by partnering with the other 2 regions, we were able to be a part of a package that gave us not only the quality of video that you just saw, but also, as Dave mentioned, the Instagram influencers, bloggers, travel writers, paid media, and also earned media across the country that we would not be able to access with our budget alone.
Right. So in addition to the websites that I already mentioned, we run 3 social media channels: Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I'll touch briefly on each of those, but here are just a couple of examples of recent Facebook posts that we put up. I wanted to give you a sense of some of the reach. So I don't know how well you can see it, but the image on the left that has the house on the waterfront, that was a little story from Sea and Traveler about, so we share not only our own content, but Walter and I, search for other content about the region that is worth sharing. So this is a piece that we pushed out a few weeks ago about Monhegan, and in a very short time reached over 16,000 potential travelers or people who are interested in our social media. And then on the right, there's just a meme that I found about during the winter about eating outside in Maine in the time of COVID and what it's like to, just a silly meme. And that one had 128,000 reach. So, Walter and I will be talking to you guys a little bit later about how we can work together on content mostly, and promoting the region and promoting your efforts. So just to give you a sense of the kind of reach we can help you with, I wanted to share those. We also, here's a couple of our Instagram pieces that we've put out. On the bottom left is the Rockland Light, and up on the other one is Frosty's Donuts up in Brunswick. Again, you can see that these are a couple of the posts that I pushed out just recently that both had really good reach. Instagram and Facebook in particular, we have a very dedicated, very strong following. I have the numbers here. I'll pull them up a little bit later, but there are 37,000 followers on Facebook and 14,000 on Instagram, and they're very engaged. So as soon as we put something up, they're on top of it. I almost pulled this slide out, but did want to mention we do work in Twitter as well, but it's not something we're as good at. If any of you work in Twitter, you probably know it's kind of a noisy platform, and if you're not on there a lot, making a lot of noise, it's not going to be as impactful. So we do run Twitter, but it's really hard to break through the noise on Twitter, and our following is quite a bit smaller. But it's something I'm trying to grow and keep working on. Each month, we put out an email newsletter to a subscriber list of about 72,000 folks. I do have a little info on the handout that Tom will send out later, but most of our Most of the people on that email list are range from the Northeast, from New England down through the Mid-Atlantic, with a couple of odd exceptions. There's a pretty big group in California that follows us. Texas has a bunch, Ohio, but mostly it's Mid-Atlantic all the way up. And each month we put these out. In fact, coming up in the next couple of months, we're going to do more than one a month to try to get some excitement built for the summer season. And this is another place where we share stories from the influencers we work with, the travel writers. We also promoted those videos like the one I showed through these newsletters. And these are sort of like the microsite that we went through a little while ago. These are sort of inspirational stories to get people excited about coming to the MidCoast, and they can click through from the newsletter to the website to learn more, to figure out how to get here, where to stay, where to eat, and all that kind of stuff. But you get a sense here of the kinds of content, kayaking, skiing, food, etc. We have made some adjustments to our plan moving forward. We're going to start highlighting different towns across the region. Some towns are going to be well suited to be promoted during the winter season, like Booth Bay, for example, has Gardens Aglow. So we may may highlight Booth Bay in the winter season, whereas others are going to be a little more of a summer focus. But we're kind of feeling our way through that new plan to draw attention to individual towns. This slide probably should have been up a little earlier, but as part of our rebranding effort and in support of our guidebook, we recently redesigned visitor center standalone kiosks where the guidebook is distributed in Kittery and Yarmouth, picking up on the Middle of Amazing tagline that we created. And these are, rather than just being mixed in on the rack with all the others, we were able to pull some of our budget out and create these sort of freestanding, attention-getting kiosks in those visitor centers. I mentioned briefly a couple of the details on our metrics for social media, and here are a couple just highlights for our websites. We, as you can see, on the microsite, 33,000 users so far this year. We are up about 7% over where we were during the same time period last year. So, and on the Maine's MidCoast site, which is the one that's part of Visit Maine, we're up over 38% compared to the same period of time last year. So from January to now. And my guess is a lot of that's COVID. It's a lot of people daydreaming about the time that they can actually leave their house and go somewhere. So we are seeing an increase in traffic of people showing some interest in coming to the region. This information, as I mentioned, is on the handout that Tom can send out. Again, social media metrics, 37,000 followers on Facebook, 14,000 on Instagram, and a kind of a small but hopefully growing following on Twitter. These platforms, particularly Facebook and Instagram, have also seen an increase over the same time period from January to March compared to last year. So again, I'm assuming that part of that's our effort to get more content out there, and part of that is the public's interest in just getting done with COVID and traveling again. We have, as I mentioned, 72,000 subscribers to our email marketing and a pretty consistent open rate of over 20%. And yeah, Walter.
So the whole what's in it for me piece, which is presumably why you came here, is to figure out what the region, Maine's, MidCoast, and Islands can do for your business. And yeah, the answer is right on the screen, content. So the thing that draws people in, that pulls at the emotional heartstrings, are stories. And as you could see, hopefully, or if you didn't, you can go to the website and see the video about Odd Ale Lives and the other places that we featured in those. Really what works with stories is being specific. It is really hard to write beautiful, attractive, emotional stories about the number of lighthouses that we have within our region. This is an important statistic. It's something that we do promote to bring people here. But the more social marketing has gotten, basically the smaller it is. And so we have been pushing for some time to get more business content going on this site. And you can imagine how that is a little tricky because there are hundreds of businesses in Maine's MidCoast, and how are we going to pick the ones that we feature? And that is a developing story. It's ongoing. Right now, we look for stories that we think will really draw people in, that will make them open the email, that will make them respond on Instagram and Facebook. So really specific is what works. And if you can provide us with photography, video, ideas, anything that we can use in our marketing, it might be helpful. I can't guarantee you that everything you send us will be used, but I can guarantee you that we look at everything. We are available to work with individual businesses one-on-one, to give you advice, to help you be on mainsmidcoast.com registered, and to help you see what kinds of things that you can develop for yourself to market your business, and also how some of those things might help us bring people to the MidCoast by using them in our marketing.
I would add to that, just to sort of enforce that, when I've had the I usually run the social media pieces of these projects, and when I have content from a business, whether it be a brewery or a kayak outfitting company, we had Seguin Tree, the tree houses where you can go stay up in MidCoast, a fat bike rental company. When I've been able to share those specific businesses, our social media, the potential for going viral is huge, because what happens almost without fail, if I mention a brewery or a restaurant, for example, one of our social media followers talks about how they went there, and then their friends chime in our chat and say they want to go there. And the reach of this, the impact of this within a day can be tens of thousands of people seeing those businesses mentioned, hearing experiences from those who've already been there. And it's like I said, it's pretty much without fail, pretty much any business that I am able to identify specifically when I push out social media content gets jumped on in a positive way. People reminisce about their experience there, and hopefully by doing so, they're encouraging their friends and followers to want to go there too. So the potential is great.
Great example right here. In case you are not all looking at the chat section of the presentation, Devin McGinnis popped on when we were showing the video and said, "Odd is great." Right? You see some place that you love and you just want to be, it's part of being a community. It's really it's a human necessity for us to be part of a community. And especially I'm thinking in this time of pandemic, when we're all encouraged to be as far away from each other as possible, we're all looking for ways to connect. And we are 1 minute past the time that Tom had asked us to wind down and open the floor to Q&A. So it's a good time.
Super. Thank you, Walter and Dave, very much. If you could stop screen sharing, then
we
see each other a little better.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great. So thanks. Just to reinforce a couple of things that they said. So, the Maine's MidCoast and Islands is one of the 8 tourism regions for the Maine Office of Tourism. That again is managed on a day-to-day basis by CD&M Communications, Walter and Dave. But the board for that Maine's Midcoast and Islands Tourism Region is made up of directors of the 8 chambers of commerce in the Midcoast, including me. So we meet collectively with Walter and Dave on a monthly basis to continue to talk about marketing plans for tourism in the Midcoast and how to spend those funds. And so if you're wanting, to be connected or access this tourism region, you can either do that through me at the chamber, or obviously we'll be sharing Walter and Dave's contact information too in the handout that we'll send around to everybody who has signed up today, so that you'll be able to reach out to them directly too. So so it's just multiple layers of promoting tourism for your business, what the individual chamber does, like our chamber for our members in terms of the Jewel magazine and our website and our social media. Then we're a part of this tourism region for the Midcoast. And of course, the Maine Office of Tourism on a statewide level. And I just want to reiterate the point that Walter made, I think, about, and Dave, about you as your business, if you don't already, can have a free listing on visitmaine.com, which also then populates to mainsmidcoast.com if you check off the Midcoast when you sign up your business. So if you haven't done that and you'd like to do that, and you don't have to be a member of a chamber of commerce to do that, it's open to any business in Maine. You can go to either visitmaine.com or mainsmidcoast.com and just scroll to the bottom of the homepage, and you'll see a link there for partner login. So that's you're the partner, and you can create a login there and create a listing for your business that will appear free of charge on visitmaine.com and mainsmidcoast.com. So that's one of the great resources of this, that's part of the efforts of the Maine Office of Tourism. So I do have a couple of questions that I'll relay. First, for either of you, Walter or Dave, we had an inquiry about can businesses leverage the photography and video assets of Maine's Midcoast and Islands, even if they need to be purchased? So.
Walter,
I believe that the answer to that is probably not. There isn't one answer to that question, because content that we access is, it's all owned by the people who produce the content, and in every case we try to acquire unlimited rights for unlimited time to use in unlimited ways forever. We don't always have those rights, but if you see a piece of video or photography that you would like to use, I would encourage you to ask us. We are also looking at ways right now. We're actually in the midst of an effort right now to pay businesses or photographers all over the Midcoast region for photography that you can provide to us. And we are looking for ways to go in the other direction, to have some sort of sharing website that we can make available to you. Sorry, it's not a simple answer, but
But you can
photographers are very close, they're close to the vest about what they sell. So
just because the tourism region has access to an asset doesn't necessarily mean that it's ours to share with other people, is really the bottom line, right? So,
and that also, so that also goes up the line to Visit Maine. So if you look at stuff that's on Maine's Office of Tourism site, or things that they produce marketing wise, those are not available to us always.
Right. However, if you see something on one of the social media channels, you can certainly share it on your page, right? So that's a piece of cake. So, yeah. Nancy Jenkins asked about how businesses are selected for a feature, and I think you addressed that really. But if you have things to share, stories to pitch, you can come to me with that and I can share it up the line, or you can go directly to Walter and Dave, and, again, we'll share their contact information with you, and I'll
Yeah.
email that around to everybody after our session. So
Can I elaborate just a little bit on that?
please.
So just taking Tom out of the equation here, you can imagine that our effort to connect with individual businesses potentially puts chamber directors in a sticky situation, because he's like not a surprising question. How do we choose? We, in particular, don't want to be in a place where we're playing favorites. The way marketing's working right now, it's hard for me to imagine that we could ever have enough content that we would be oversubscribed in that department. But specifically, we would be looking for stories that are interesting. So, if you or photography or video that is particularly beautiful and gorgeous. So there in the Instagram slide, I think you saw a shot of Frosties. So there was just a front of a business that's in Maine's MidCoast. And it was there because the snowfall, the name Frosties, the fact that it was holiday time, it all fit together. And so it's possible that the front of your business could potentially be a shareable item, but you need to think about it in that way. Like, if you saw it, would you be interested if it was somebody else's business?
Great, thanks. I'm not seeing other questions in the chat, or if you have anything you would want to ask before we wrap up here, just drop it in the chat or shoot me a message and I can relay it. Just this is probably a lesser known aspect of the Maine Office of Tourism, I would say, and the efforts that are happening on a regional level for the Mid-Coast and the other regions. But obviously, the target audience for this effort isn't people who live here, and it's really trying to promote all of your businesses outward to outside of the state and outside of the region. So we wanted to include this in our Tourism Tuesday series and make sure that you're aware that this is happening on your behalf, and that it's a part of the Maine Office of Tourism, that your local chamber is very much a part of managing this too, in a collective effort with the local chambers in the Mid-Coast, and to let you know how to access the resources of the tourism region. So Walter and Dave, any closing thoughts before we wrap up that you want to share?
Yeah, no, I think you summarized it pretty well. Like, we are the vehicle that can help you leverage what the big Maine Office of Tourism budget is doing. So we can connect you with that marketing machine.
Yeah, I already mentioned that my contact info is on the handout that Tom will distribute. And if you want to ask me anything about how we get content out there or what might be good to provide or share, let me know. Because like Walter said, there at this point in time, we don't have to be selective. We'll take anything we can get, and we'll work through it, make sure it's appropriate and of value. But we would be happy to receive as much content as we can get. So,
one thing we left out of our list of things that we can do to help you, because it's not something that we come across all that often, but we have direct access to Maine's PR machine also. So if you have stories that would be of interest to earned media, the Wall Street Journal wants to do a story about how resorts are doing life celebrations, or anything of interest. it's a way for you to get that news up the line to people who have access to national and regional press connections. Sorry.
I just, one of the things, there are things in Maine that those of us who live here, we kind of forget that they're unique. So it's a good thing to think about. Last year, we put out a story about, I already mentioned fat biking, but we put out a story about fat biking in Maine, in the MidCoast. And it's like, where else in the country, where else in the world can you fat bike on a snowy trail in winter while looking out at the ocean? So there are things in Maine that those of us who live here take for granted, but when we put that content out of state and people see it, it's exciting to them and interesting. So kind of maybe keep that in mind.
Right. Well, Walter and Dave, thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate it. I think we'll just start to wrap up here. We do have 2 more Tourism Tuesday presentations coming up in the next 2 weeks. Hope you can join us for those, and you can register on our website for that. Next week, we're going to hear from the new CEO of Hospitality Maine, Matt Lewis, and their Director of Government Affairs, Greg Dougal, who is a familiar face to many of us here in the MidCoast. So I want to thank First National Bank again for sponsoring our Tourism Tuesday series, and thank you all for tuning in, and we hope to see you next Tuesday. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.